right, so there's some updates that I need to address. Next Friday, I actually thought it was 2 Fridays from now, but it's actually next Friday. That's when we have the spring break, and that spring break goes on that Thursday and Friday next week. I don't even know what the point of that is. Why not just give us the whole week off? Why just 2 days? But that's how it's going to affect us. So what I want to do for that day is just keep reading. Just keep reading up through where you're supposed to be in 2 weeks. Okay. So you don't have to do a response next week, but yeah, keep reading up until where you're, because I split each evening into 4 classes: this, 15th, 22nd, and 29th. So just keep reading all the way up to where you're supposed to go on the 22nd for our next class. So just keep plugging along with it, and then we'll meet again on the 22nd.
Easy enough.
Easy, easy peasy. So let me take a look. I'll take a look at the chapters. I'll tell you exactly where you're supposed to go to. Let's see. Sometime soon we need to start talking shop for papers. Um, yeah, because technically around April 22nd, I think, right around finals week. So I need to figure out a day that we're going to start talking shop. So we still have one more book left to do, The Winter of Our Discontent. Let's see. I think that's Hunter's book. No, Hunter already did. No, Braun was first with Mice and Men. Nobody did Grapes. Shane did Cannery. Yeah, so that's Hunter's book.
Dr. Yeager, I went and picked up The Pearl and the Moon is Down. Are those good books?
Oh yeah, definitely. The Pearl
Yeah.
was what I did. The Pearl was what I did my paper on at the conference last year.
Oh, okay.
The Moon
Yeah.
is Down.
I'm sorry. Do what?
I was going to say The Moon is Down. I wrote about that in that article on Grapes of Wrath that I wrote about too.
Mm.
It's The Moon is Down is a World War II piece. It's one of Steinbeck's few books not written in California. It takes place in Europe during the occupation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured I'd pick those up and just add to my growing collection. So when I get around to it, I may read those as well. So
Yeah, if you teach high school for a while, the Pearl was often taught in high school classrooms.
okay.
That one's kind of The Pearl was kind of like a morality story, like a fable. That's kind of what it feels like. That's kind of the tone it gives.
Mm.
Yeah, we skipped a lot of Steinbeck history between Cannery Row and East of Eden, but Pearl Steinbeck took a great interest in sort of Mexican independence, and so he wrote a couple of books about Mexico. The Pearl was one of them, and then he wrote a screenplay for a Hollywood movie. The movie was called Zapata, about the fight for Mexican independence. Marlon Brando was the main actor in that movie, Zapata. During the time in between, he also wrote Long from the Sea of Cortez, which is about he and Ricketts and Carol was. That was when he and Carol were on the outskirts, but he wrote about their journey down past San Diego, down through the Sea of Cortez into Mexico, and he wrote about like all the nature that they encountered along the way. Sea of Cortez is a great book. If you like nature writing, it's one of the finest pieces of nature writing in American lit. I think it's right up there with Walden and stuff like that. And yeah, The Moon is Down is another piece that he wrote in the middle. He went to World War II and was a World War II journalist for a while. He also went to communist Russia and wrote a book called The Russian Journal, just talking about his insights, that he found in his journey to Russia. He wrote a lot about like the communism and stuff like that in that book. I think his trip to Russia really really kind of hardened him in some ways, because The Grapes of Wrath, you can read that as being like an extremely like socialist book. I think going to communist Russia kind of did something to him. It made him a little more, not much, but a little more conservative than what he was when he wrote Grapes of Wrath, because he definitely saw how, if that vision is stretched to its limit, how bad it can be when he went to communist Russia. So yeah, we've quite a bit of stuff in between Cannery Row and this. So yeah, the only Steinbeck book I don't really like, it's a book called Burning Bright. I don't really like that one too much, but the rest of them, I think the rest of them I like a lot. Burning Bright is a book that he wrote after his second divorce, and the book's kind of misogynistic. So he wasn't feeling very good towards women when he wrote that book. So I would not recommend Burning Bright. But all the rest of them, it's good stuff. But this one that we're reading for today, East of Eden, it's often considered, well, Grapes of Wrath is considered his ultimate masterpiece, but East of Eden is definitely held in high regard as well. It's been probably 10 or 12 years since I've read it. All the other stuff I've taught up to now I've read fairly recently. And I forgot how interesting of a book it was. The book is about Steinbeck's own history, his family history, and he kind of you know how it goes in a work like this. You can't call it nonfiction, right? He definitely takes his family history as a template and then kind of embellishes it, and pretty much turns his family history into fiction. But he uses his family history as a backdrop to tell the story. And the story is about the Hamilton family, which is his mother's side. I think, yeah, Hamilton's his mother's side. and the Trask family, Adam, and that's his father's side. So he's kind of tracing his family history through a couple of generations. It's kind of like it's kind of you can like you guys probably know the book Alex Haley's Roots. Roots is about Alex Haley's family and how they went through slavery and then Reconstruction and all that. Um, it's kind of a similar setup for a story about it takes place across multiple generations of family. The only difference was Alex Haley's isn't really embellished with fiction, whereas Steinbeck's is. Um, and of course, as the title would indicate, this book is definitely laced with tons of biblical themes, biblical ideas. When Adam and Eve left the garden, they went east, right? The east always has a connotation in Christianity. Um, if you go to an Orthodox church today, the priest always has his back turned to the audience, and he always faces east because that's where Christ will come again from, is the east. So um, east always east always has some connotations in Christianity. Of course, we have the story of these two brothers, Adam and Charles. Adam and Charles, definitely there's a Cain and Abel sort of parallel between them. Um, yeah, that's definitely kind of where that's going. And then we have, I think, one of the best characters in literature, Kathy. Um, she's quite an evil lady, right? But Kathy is introduced in this section too with marrying Adam. And then immediately on their wedding day, she sleeps with Charles, as we find out in the end of our reading for today. So she is, she's quite a character. But as we keep going through the book, of course, we'll find out what happens to Adam and Charles, but we'll also get uh, their offspring as we keep reading. And so the family history will keep going down. And then we'll find out what happens to the Trasks are who get the majority of the development in this first quarter of the book. But we'll also get a lot on the Hamilton family too and their development. The Hamiltons got a couple of chapters early on, then they got a chapter like in the middle. But other than that, the whole first quarter was based on Adam and Charles and Catherine so far. So let me just start out by asking you two guys, how's it going? How's the reading going so far? I noticed as I was reading, like I don't think I've ever read this novel before, like in sequence with a lot of other novels like we've done in the class. So like those first couple of chapters, especially where he talked about the Salinas Valley, um, I definitely saw some To a God Unknown in there and some Cannery Row in there. At least describing the setting. But yeah, we'll just watch your guys' takes. What are you finding interesting about it so far? Um, I don't know which one of you want to kick us off.
Well, like you said, I see the Cain and Abel comparison between Adam and Charles. That's kind of, you know, thrown in your face type deal. and I've learned to look more for biblical references in Steinbeck's writings, so that's becoming more easy to see. Um, I put in my reading journal that I would have been that guy after meeting Kathy. Like you would have found me on that church altar that one morning. Um, I was just extremely intrigued by her just from the get go. I was intrigued by her character description and everything. I was like, huh, this lady's kind of interesting. I think I might like to study her. And then the very next paragraph was everybody wants to study this woman. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, yep. And then it went into the whole story about what happened and with little Mr. Getty. I don't remember his name. I'm like, yeah, that's me. So I found that really interesting.
Yeah, we'll definitely dig deep into looking at her character today. There's a lot of discussion with her on the nature of good versus evil, right? This is kind of like talking about Kathy's a nice way to start talking about philosophy a little bit, right? Like, is a person naturally evil? Um, can people be kind of born evil? Are they made evil based on circumstance and their life? Um, Steinbeck's, I would argue, Steinbeck's kind of suggesting that some people are naturally born evil. And
But that's exactly what he says, pretty much word for word, right before we meet Kathy. And it makes sense. It follows along with a lot of, I don't want to say psychology because I haven't delved into, that study, but it does follow along of what I've seen. His description of people, that their mentality, he studies people. It follows along with what I've seen. I've never met anybody. I've never met a Kathy, but it doesn't it wouldn't shock me that one of the like somebody like that would actually exist. I've read the news.
But yeah, I see the relation here with to a God unknown with his description of the valley and Henry Rowe and all of that, and certainly the Adam and Eve um, reference there. And even when, uh, let's see, what was her name? The wife. Did they even give the wife a name? Remember, she kills herself.
Alice.
Cyrus,
hmm,
yeah, Alice. Okay, so when she kills herself, it's almost like Adam and Eve when Eve had, ate of the tree, and they realized what they had done. So remember, she says she killed herself, and she realized what kind of illness she had. So it's just somewhat of that realization there and deep biblical reference. But yeah, Brian, y'all were talking about how people are born evil, and here in chapter 8, uh, he was right, and I believe there are monsters born into the world or in the world to human parents. Some you can see misshapen and horrible with huge heads or tiny bodies. Some are born with no arms, no legs. Some with 3 arms, some with tails or mouths in odd places. They are accidents and no one's fault, as used to be thought. Once they were considered the visible punishments for concealed sins. And just as there are physical monsters, can there not be mental or psychic monsters born? So let's see, the face and body may be perfect, but if a twisted gene or malformed egg can produce physical monsters, may not the same process produce a malformed soul? So I think that's somewhat what he's touching on there, is it not? How he's talking about how there are just some people who are just born into this world with evil tendencies, evil personalities. Um, So it's just very philosophical there, and like Abron said, it was right before, and then at the bottom here on my page, that's when it goes into Kathy's character there. So it's almost like he's introducing what's to come when we start looking at Kathy's character, to try to get you to think about why she acts the way she acts.
I love the paragraph right after where you stopped reading too. Monsters are variations from the accepted normal to a greater or a less degree. As a child may be born without an arm, so one may be born without kindness or the potential of conscience.
Mm-hmm.
A man who loses his arms in an accident has a great struggle to adjust himself to the lack. What one born without arms suffers only from people who find them strange. Having never had arms, he cannot miss them. Sometimes when we are little, we imagine how it would be to have wings, but there is no reason to suppose it is the same feeling birds have. No, to a monster, the norm must seem monstrous, since everyone is normal to himself. The inner monster, it must be even more obscure, since he has no visible thing to compare with others. To a man born without conscience, a soul-stricken man must seem ridiculous. To a criminal, honesty is foolish. You must not forget that a monster is only a variation, and that to a monster the norm is monstrous. It is my belief that Kathy Ames was born with the tendency or lack of them, which drove and forced her all of her life. Some balance wheel was misweighted, some gear out of ratio. She is not like other people, never was from birth. Just as a cripple may learn to utilize his lack so that he becomes more effective in a limited field than the uncrippled, so did Kathy, using her difference, make a painful and bewildering stir in her world. Yeah, this we can definitely dig into some philosophy here, but if you look at philosophy from a Christian point of view, like I don't know if you remember this from philosophy class, Shane, but St. Thomas Aquinas, right? He wrote a lot on the nature of good and evil, and he would argue that there is no such thing as pure evil. So Steinbeck's kind of deviating from this a little bit. Um, Aquinas would argue that there's just good, like God's creation is nothing but good. But what tends to happen, how evil forms, is when there's a lack of good, and something about the natural state of creation, something starts to lack, and whenever that happens, that's how evil is kind of constructed. So in the Christian philosophy, it's typically thought that everybody is created good, but only when some sort of lack comes up.
I like what you said there, Miss Yeager.
What? How do you mean, Kelvin?
Um, just like, and when you just said God creation, like everything is good when He created, like has good intention, but He also gave us free will,
Mm-hmm.
which separates everybody because, you know, we're not robots. You know, He didn't design us all to be one way and go one direction. He gave us free will so we could be able to make our own choices. And I don't want to dive too deep, but he basically gave us the ability to make our own decisions and go whatever path we chose to go down. So I agree with you when you say, you know, we all have good purpose and good intentions, but people choose to go down different roads because of their free will, which comes with consequences. No matter what choice you make in life, it's going to have a consequence, whether it's good or bad. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
agree
yeah,
with
definitely for sure.
Yeah, I agree that disobedience results in evil, and has consequences that follows along there. It's like in Genesis, chapter 1, he said, on the sixth day he saw everything that he'd made, and behold, it was very good. So if he said everything, he saw everything and he said it was good. So something down the
Right.
line happened. There was people began to deviate from that good that God had intended. So of course the consequences and then evil started finding itself in society. So here we are, and it just continues to snowball. It continues to get um, uh, keeps increasing its size, every day. So good point.
If I can try and make a counter argument to that, not to everything is good, but um, you were saying that Steinbeck was writing the opposite of, I believe, wait, you said St. Thomas.
Yeah.
Um, would it not be writing the exact same thing? Because I mean, like, you don't strip the flesh off of the ones you love, right? She didn't really turn evil until after Dad started whipping her. I mean, she was manipulative and whatever, did whatever she could do to get her way. And I mean, kids are stupid. I wouldn't say it definitely wasn't with a good heart what she did in grade school with those two boys. Um, but
Yeah, you
like,
read.
but there was never an option for her to be raised right because she started being manipulated from so young, right? So there wasn't any sort of guidance, and so the first bit of guidance that she had was being whipped. Um, and then that's whenever, you know, arson happened. So, from one extremes to the other, it kind of makes sense in her brain to react that way. Like, if these people are going to hold me hostage here against my will, under the threat of, a cat of nine tails, I'm going to do what I can to get away too.
I guess a deep discussion point could be, was she still good in her tendencies there? Was it self-defense? Could it still
Oh, I'm
be?
not saying it was, and I don't believe that she was. I believe she was born wrong, but maybe not born evil.
Mhm. But see, evil started pretty much, I mean, it did. It started in the garden. So, God had this plan that everything was good, and then out of Adam and Eve's disobedience, then came Cain, and then Cain's generation. So evil's been around for a very long time. So, I mean, I think that it has crept into, numerous people's lives. And I mean, I have a point in my head, but I can't really figure out how to put it in the words. But I hope y'all understand what I'm saying by that. But it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, if you're St. Thomas, you can argue that the devil actually didn't have a lot to do with the introduction of evil. Right? He tempted Eve to eat the apple, but that's really, even if you think about the devil, right? The devil was saw as the ultimate source of evil. Well, even the devil, his real only power is to be a seducer, and it still takes man's free will to choose whether to listen or not. Um, so that's definitely something he always St. Thomas always argued against the power of evil. I guess you can say evil just simply springs out of the lack of good. Or if you remember from Augustine, right? Augustine argued that evil often comes up when love is twisted, love is malformed in some way. That's Augustine argued that that's a way that evil arises too. Like think about just think about all the maybe there's all these loves, like maybe you kill somebody out of jealousy or something, right? Um, that would be a case where you once loved somebody and then maybe that went wrong, so your love became twisted into like a knot into something else entirely. But either way you go, you have to have good first before evil. Evil doesn't, at least within Christian thought, evil doesn't exist as a natural state of being. Now, with that said, other schools of thought across the world, they do see it that way. The Zoroastrian religion that was that was a religion that was formed in like the Persia area in the ancient days. They saw the world as a natural dualism between good and evil. You have good and then you have evil, and the end result would be good triumphing over evil. But they're almost co-equal forces with each other within that school of thought. And then you have Taoism with the yin yang, right? The yin and the yang, they're both two equal forces with each other, and both of them create balance. You can't have it's like in Star Wars with the Jedi, right? You have to have the good side of the Force, and you have to have the dark side of the Force. That's kind of where Star Wars got its idea, was from Taoism. So now, so Braun, you said a minute ago that you thought that you thought that Steinbeck was still taking a Christian view here. I think that Katie was not born evil necessarily, but she was made evil by her circumstances. Maybe if she would have had some better nurturing from her parents, maybe she wouldn't have taken that drastic step to murder them like she did. Yeah, what do the rest of you guys think? I think Braun made a compelling argument there. What do the rest of you guys think about that? Is she born evil, or was she a created evil?
It's like that old song go, life turned her that way. That's what happened. It seems to be that way. It was her upbringing. But then again, though, you could give the argument, and I know we mentioned it in philosophy, but I can't remember right off who the philosopher was. I think he was a Christian philosopher. Maybe it might have been Augustine, but basically saying that even at the moment of birth, we're in need of a savior. I mean, I could see that point. And so there's already sin or evil present. So you have to have a savior to, overcome those things.
Yeah, that was Augustine.
Right. Okay. Good. I glad I remembered that.
Yeah,
But
he came up with the idea of original sin, right?
original sin. Yeah. Yeah. That
That
was the term. Hmm.
you think of babies as being completely innocent, right? But when a baby is born, they still inherit Adam and Eve's original sin.
Hmm.
Even as a baby, they still have at least one sin um, on their soul that they inherit from. That's just man's natural state after the fall.
I see it more that way, but at the same time, her upbringing didn't help things. It made it worse. It just added on top of it there, and then of course she just broke, and her actions showed that. So that's just how I look at it. I mean, I don't know how you all look at it, but I mean, thinking more about it, I think that it's that everyone is in need of a savior, and there's that sin, that evil there that you got to take care of.
Kelvin, what do you think? Do you think she's born evil, or do you think she's created evil?
Hold on, my fault. Okay. So yeah, based off the little small 2 cents I put in earlier, and to agree with Shane, I feel like you kind of have to be molded into a position to be that type of person. And when I say molded, meaning you have to see, you have to experience certain things to become an outcome of it. It's kind of like the saying of being you're a product of your environment, which is true to a certain extent. And I feel like she fell victim to it because, unlike most of us, we may be in a bad environment, but we may have somebody to mentor us and keep us in our line and tracks. And like I said, to agree with Shane, I feel like everything he said was spot on. So that's how I feel about it. I feel like, just through her life experiences, she just became a product of her environment, or what she saw, what she became a part of, and what she experienced.
So all of you guys take the nurture rather than nature approach to this question. Then it'll be interesting to hear what you guys have to say when you keep reading through um, on what you think about this. Um, yes, I don't know
I
if I.
feel like I feel like that's what we're doing right now. I feel like a Braun taking the nature side, and me and Shane taking what you guys say? You said nature and something. What was it, Jacob?
Nature versus nurture. That's
Yeah,
what.
yeah, yeah, nurture. I feel like we on the nurture side.
Yeah, I think all three of you guys are taking the nurture side. Um, I don't know if I agree with you all on this one. I think, like, as far as how Steinbeck's handling it, at least, she seems to be created naturally evil. Like it even talks about on the next page how in puberty her nipples turned inward, right? That's kind of a bodily suggestion that she wasn't even created right in a way. But again, you can kind of view that as a lack of good, a lack of normal. You can turn this idea of good versus evil in a lot of ways. Like if you think about maybe you're sick, like sickness is a lack of health, right? So health is the state of good. So it's an interesting question that we'll keep thinking about. we see lots of other cases of evil in this part too. The guy that Katie, the guy who owns the brothels, and Katie kind of after she kills her parents, she goes to him, and Katie like seduces them and stuff, but she kind of she's using him, right? She's using him for his money, and he starts to feel a lack of love on her part. He loves her more than anything, right? But he's starting to feel a lack of love from her, and it ends the close to the end of our reading for today. It ends with him beating her to a pulp, to the point that she's almost he thinks he murdered her, right? But he beats her to a pulp, leaving her for dead. And there's a case where of course, you can argue the guy was evil in the first place just because he owned these brothels. But at the same time, here's a case where something like love, which is supposed to be good, was twisted in a knot into something evil, um, with this murderous rage. And then we have Charles too, right? What do you guys? We have Adam Trask. We have Charles. Um, what do you guys think is up with Charles? Um, Charles seems naturally off in some way too. Um, what do you guys make of this relationship between Adam and his brother Charles?
I mean, Cain and Abel story, obvious, but Charles has a high reverence for his father. Doesn't want to admit that these stories might be embellished. Um, I can see where he's coming from, saying that their father loved Adam more than Charles, but it wasn't how the story was portrayed, while reading it up to that point. It was just like there was that switch one day when he was old enough to finally join the army. That kind of set everything apart for him. I can't speak on what's going through Charles's mind though.
Yeah, he says that he gets jealous, right? He says that his father loves Adam more than he loves him. Um,
This kind of remind me of um what my mom used to tell me. She was like, when you got kids, you never supposed to like treat one better than the other or love one better than the other, because what is that? What I'm trying to say? It draws up like a division within the brotherhood or sisterhood or whatever. And I think that's in the Bible too. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's in the Bible too.
yeah, of course, that's a good point, Kelvin. That often incites jealousies and resentment amongst siblings when one is treated better than another. Um, does Cyrus treat his son? Does he treat Adam better than Charles? That's an interesting question. Way that I read it, it seems like he just realizes that they're two different human beings, right? He kind of realizes that Charles is more hardened, whereas Adam's more of a softer soul, and he thought that Adam having that military training would be good for him. Whereas Charles, he sees Charles as being too headstrong, too stubborn. He would not fit within that military tradition. So so Charles sees that as a slight, like, hey, I would be a good soldier too. Why do you want Adam to be a soldier but not me? When in reality, maybe his father was doing him a favor by not making him become a soldier. I don't know. Did you guys get the impression that one brother was treated better than another?
No, I think you hit it spot on, Mr. Yeager. It's just speaking from experience with me and my brothers, we all built different in different ways. Like, we got the same blood, but we clearly built different. Like, I can tolerate some things that my older brother can't, and my older brother can tolerate some things that I can't. And if I look at it from my point of view and tie it to your point of view, it's just the same thing. My mom may allow me to do certain things that my brother can't do because he just isn't cut out for it. And she knows that because that's her child. In this sense, the father knew that Charles couldn't handle certain things like the military, etc. So I kind of see what you're going at, and I agree with it. I don't think that, yeah, you got to get treated a little different, but the love is still the same. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Like, he still loves his sons, but he know who his sons are, type stuff. If that's what I'm trying to say.
And Charles definitely takes things hard. Like, he was always a better athlete than Adam, and when Adam beats him at driving, I think it was a golf ball or something. That's when he beats Adam to a pulp. And when the military thing happens too, Charles gets jealous and almost beats Adam to an inch of his life. So the Cain and Abel parallels are definitely here, right? In the Genesis story, why did Cain murder Abel, right? He thought that God was more liked Abel. Cain thought God liked Abel more because he liked his offerings more. You had the parallel there with the offering in the biblical story to the gift that they try to give the father in this one. And Charles keeps saying, "Hey, I gave him a knife. He didn't even look at that knife. You gave him a puppy, and he carried that puppy around with him everywhere. You didn't even put any thought into your gift. I put a lot of thought into mine." It's that same kind of origin of evil that created the very first murder in Genesis.
That's funny you're bringing that up. I'm literally sitting here looking at that passage. You took the words right out of my mouth. But yeah, that's true though, the offering there, yes. So Steinbeck was, I think we've mentioned this before, he was very knowledgeable about the Bible and all the stories, and he was good at including those stories into his own stories, developing characters to portray those biblical characters oftentimes.
Yeah, it's kind of eerie how much the parallel is there between the Cain and Abel and Charles and Adam. Yeah, my memory of the book isn't that good, so I'm kind of interested to see where it's going to go next with these two. I think you guys can probably see after today that, especially at the end when Kathy goes and sleeps with Charles. That's how the section ends today. They drug Adam. She drugs Adam and then goes up and has sex with Charles. I think you can see where that's going to go. She's going to end up having a kid that's going to be Charles's. So you have two very troubled individuals having a kid. What's going to come out of that? If you think that Kathy's naturally evil, what's going to happen with her kid that she has with somebody who's already tainted by evil himself, with a father who's already tainted by evil himself?
Well, that's just like with Sarah when she couldn't have a baby. Abraham and Sarah, and then Abraham got with Hagar, which was Sarah's handmaiden, and had Ishmael. So there we go again. There's another parallel.
Right. And of course, as we learned from last semester, that's where Islam traces their roots. Right. Abraham and Hagar, rather than Abraham and Sarah, like the Jews do. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes from here. Shane, did you notice any other biblical parallels maybe we didn't examine?
We've covered quite a few of them there. I think those are the ones that come to my mind right off. Right now, anyway.
So far.
Yeah. There's still a lot to cover in the book, so I'm sure there'll be plenty more.
This is definitely his longest of his books.
I have a question, and you don't have to, expand or ruin anything. But does the book explain where all of that money came from? All the Trask money?
Not that I remember. Yeah, maybe it does. Maybe I've forgotten. But where did that money come from? As far as how the dad got it? No, I don't think so, Ron. I think it leaves it ambiguous. But he made a career for himself in Washington, right? He became like the Under Secretary of Defense or something like that. So you can imagine he made pretty good money doing that. Yeah, I don't remember it developing that more. But again,
I mean, if he was Under Secretary of Defense, that would kind of explain it. I didn't remember quite reading that.
Yeah, I'm sure he made pretty good money as a government official. Usually, those government officials like that, they get consulting jobs and stuff like that too, where they're never really broke. A lot of politicians get speaking gigs where they give lectures and get paid good money for it. Like a lot of you see a lot of universities and stuff inviting some famous speaker to give their graduation speech. They usually get paid 50 to 100,000 to give a speech like that at a graduation and stuff. So politicians have a way of making money even after they're done with politics. kind of crazy.
Goes in middle class and comes out in the top 1%. Makes you scratch your head.
Right. Yeah, I went into the wrong career. Yeah. Actually, as a West Virginia, I don't know if you guys knew this, but as West Virginia state employee, it's illegal for me to run for office. I cannot run for a state office as an employee of the state. So as long as I'm a professor in the state, I couldn't ever run for a state office. Not that I would win anyway. Nobody would vote for me.
I would.
Yeah, a good friend of mine is running for judge down in McDowell County, Shane. I don't know if you knew that.
Is his last name, Miller?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've seen some things about him.
Yeah, he's been one of my best friends for forever. So he would be a good one for you all, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you would be the minority, Shane. I'm sure. I'm an independent, so I wouldn't get the Democratic vote or the Republican vote just because I wouldn't put a letter next to my name.
Just a brief thing here. Have you been seeing that dude that's running for governor's commercial?
I don't
He's
think so.
a car dealership owner.
I've not, no.
He was saying all these Marxist professors, messing with the kids' education, and we're going to have to get rid of that. I won't allow it to happen. I mean, oh my goodness, he's just, extreme. You'll look him up. I cannot think of his name right off, but Chris Miller. That's his name, Chris Miller. Interesting dude.
That's the good thing about being an independent. I can elect whichever ballot I want in the primary, so I might have to go in and vote against them. He's saying stuff like that.
His mom is Carol Miller.
That doesn't surprise me then. That woman's an idiot. I'm sorry. It was the worst thing that ever happened to this region when she beat Nick Rahal.
Nick was a good guy.
Yeah. He gave some interesting speeches for Jammy last year. Jammy's who needs to run for office. He could probably win.
He's got a lot of connections, so it wouldn't surprise me any at all.
He's got the personality. He can win. I don't have the personality.
If it's okay with you guys, I have to step off of here.
Yeah, that's all right, Braun. I think I'm going to end a little early today anyway, because I feel like we've covered pretty much the main talking points.
Thank you for the discussion.
Yeah, so remember, 2 weeks from now, just read up to where you're supposed to go anyway, even though we're not going to meet next week.
Got it.
Take care, Braun. Have a good weekend.
You as well. Stay safe.
You too. Yeah, so just remember 2 weeks from now, 22nd, just read up to where you're supposed to by then. Kelvin, remember, you're going to be the presenter on the 29th. You're going to be the one who presents on the novel as a whole on the 29th.
Lord have mercy.
It's a long one. You picked the longest one. You'll do good.
We stand in solidarity, Kelvin. You've got this.
I don't think I picked it. I think it picked me. That's what I think what happened.
You were the last one to pick, weren't you?
I think so.
It was between this and Grapes of Wrath, I think. Grapes isn't even as long. This is his big long one. I forgot to mention that this might be helpful to you, Kelvin. Steinbeck also wrote a journal of his writing process during East of Eden too.
Okay.
The journal of the novel East of Eden, I think is what it's called. It's in the library if you want to take a look at it.
Okay.
So yeah, so next time we meet 2 weeks from now, you will have read 3/4 of it at that point. So you guys will have a lot more talking. We'll have a lot more talking points with that much more of the book completed at that point. So I'm excited to get through it. This is actually my first time teaching this one, so I'm excited to keep reading. And trying to think of any other class business. Yeah, remember, just submit your journals on this, maybe like by Monday or so. You guys know I'm pretty lenient on that. Just submit those early next week. And I still need to I graded of mice. I graded To a God Unknown, Of Mice and Men, and I think your first Grapes of Wrath one. So I still need to grade your last the first and second Grapes of Wrath one. I still need to grade the last Grapes of Wrath one and then the Cannery Row one. I'll try to do that this weekend.
Mr. Yeager. Mr. Yeager. My phone breaking up.
I'm here.
Oh, if I send you my capstone, could you look over it for me?
Yeah, I could give you some pointers.
Okay, I appreciate that.
What are you doing it on?
I'm doing it on a section in this book called Beowulf the Beals, and the book is basically poems and songs. That's literally all it is. And what I have to do is do a literary analysis on the poems alone, not the authors. Some of the poems have imagery in them, meta, and it's so small. Like a poem can be an object, etc. All of those little things. And what I have to do is find the research, get up on how poems are an image, object, or a theme, or metaphor. So that's basically what I'm doing for my capstone. And then I have the Beowulf. The book itself as a resource to use for evidence and etc. So I'm starting the paper today. Like I just get my introduction page in, and I'm start building on it. Actually, you can look over my annotated bib and my introduction as soon as I get
All right,
finished.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Muhammad asked me to read his whole dissertation, so I still got to do that for him as well. I'm a very busy man these days. I've never looked forward to a summer more in my whole life than I'm looking forward to this one. I'm feeling the burnout right now. I don't know about you guys.
Who you telling? I'm feeling it too. We're gonna finish strong.
I'm dragging terribly.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to lay down somewhere and just put my knees up and just lay there for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest with you.
After I do this department meeting, I think that's what I want to do for the rest of the day.
I tell you, I don't know if I've had a semester like this in a long time. I don't even know if I've even had a semester like this before, but it's I'm feeling it.
Yeah, every semester of grad school will feel like that, Shane. So just brace yourself.
I guess this semester is just breaking me in for that.
Yep.
Might as well adapt to it and overcome.
All right, guys. Well, I'll hit the stop recording.